New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Rev with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And I'm Rev Rod right here.
And this is New Thought Today. Happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. here on the Mountain Time Zone. My dear co-host and friend, Rev Z, and I get to sit down with some of the most amazing and interesting people on the planet as we talk about the future of New Thought. And today we have something special for you because obviously we are not all on our own computers. Reverend Rodney and I are attending the Parliament of the World's Religions here in Chicago, USA. And I saw that earlier. I like the fact that around here they don't say they're from Chicago, Illinois. They say they're from Chicago, USA. So I think that's kind of neat. But we're here experiencing the Parliament of World Religions, and that gives us a great excuse to sit side by side with some colleagues and friends and have some conversations around New Thought. So let's get it started, Reverend Rodney. Now, first off, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here. And tell our home audience a little bit about you and what they need to know about you before we dig into our conversation today.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation. It's just a wonderful network. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and it just really helps promote all that we're about in New Thought. I'm so glad to be a member of New Thought, and glad to be in the New Thought Network now, officially. And Reverend Rodney Gittens from Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, born and bred. Brooklyn, USA. And basically, as I mentioned, grew up in Brooklyn. I was introduced to New Thought actually here in Chicago. Back in 1978, I was a student doing a work-study program here in Chicago, and a coworker took me to Christ Universal Temple, which at the time, which was run by Johnny Coleman, and that was an old-style New Thought church, and that was my first really introduction or indoctrination into New Thought.
Indoctrination's more like
it was, especially at that church. But the music was slamming. That's all I really remember. But I didn't quite. The teaching didn't quite catch hold. However, I visited some friends in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and a dear friend, Sherry, introduced me to religious science, into science of mind and spirit, and that philosophy. And I had some tapes of Reverend Michael Beckwith, Dr. Reverend Michael Beckwith now, and him doing visioning in Dayton, Ohio. And that just blew me away. It was a language that touched my heart and made sense in my mind and really fed my soul. And interesting thing, she gave me a Science of Mind magazine, a little booklet, a monthly booklet. And I just treasured it so much. And, I got to tell you, I, for some reason, didn't think that there were any others being published ever. And so I treasured that one little book. And what got me to attend services regularly in New York was I was in a series of car accidents. I kept getting hit from behind. And after the third time, I figured, this must be a message. So I took 3 times to get the message. And I picked up that magazine because it had a bunch of affirmations in there. And I picked it up, and I had it upside down. And when I opened it up, it said, Directory of Churches. I didn't see that ever before. For over a year, I had this book. All of a sudden, I see, there's a church in New York. And I went and stayed, and that was United Science of Mind Center of New York. And I learned that, this is a philosophy, not necessarily just a religion. However, in the years that I attended, it officially has become a religion. That's religious science. We call it science of mind and spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was actually the most recent Congress before, or Parliament before this one, where New Thought was declared a world religion.
Yeah.
And we are now we as the greater New Thought movement, because there's a lot of different New Thought organizations represented here this week. And, folks, those that watch the program know that we love promoting our friends and family and all the various organizations that represent New Thought, as does New Thought Media Network. And our desire, if you will, one of our goals is to stand shoulder to shoulder with all these great organizations. And that's happening more and more and more, it seems, and it's happening here at the Parliament. Share with us a little bit, what have you seen of that kind of interconnection between the groups that maybe is different now than years past?
Well, this is my third time coming to a Parliament of World Religions, and it's spectacular. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a parliament of different religions from around the world. Now, of course, not all, and it could certainly hold all in consciousness and in actuality, because there's plenty of room for more. What I've noticed is in my conversing with people, just walking down the hallways and meeting with people, religion is not what comes first. Even with people who are wearing their religious garb, their habits or their collars or whatever is their religious outfits. That's not what comes first. We don't say, "So, what religion are you?" We we're like,
Right.
"Where are you from? What's your name? What do you do?" And we connect on a human yet spiritual level on what really matters to each other. And then we're like, oh, by the way, what religion are you? And so I'm seeing that more, because what I've recognized is that we are connecting on a spiritual level, and then connecting on how we apply that spirituality through the religion. And I'm reminded that the word religion, one of the definitions, and to me it's one of the main definitions, is to bind one to one source. And that's all we're doing. In whether it's a recognized religion or if there's no religion, however, we have some kind of practice that binds us to our source. And we recognize that in each other, and we honor that. And I know that's what makes a big difference. I came from a luncheon where the Sikh culture, more than just a religion.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And I think there's more of them here than anybody else, probably.
I have to agree.
And they feed us. Yeah, they feed us every day for lunch. And you just sit down with somebody who you've never met before, and you're making bread, you're eating, you're just enjoying the presence of being wonderfully fed. But there's more than food that's feeding us. We're being fed by our likeness, by recognizing, when we say namaste, I recognize God within you, the presence of the divine. And we do that. And it's so enjoyable. And you're like, this is what the world really could be like. And when we're sharing all of the different things that go on in our lives or in the world, and things that we really need to hear about that you a lot of times won't hear about on TV. Right. And that's really where the connection happens, and where we can find a way to make a difference, regardless of the organized religion.
Wow. Well, the thing that I heard there that stuck out to me was, first and foremost, people are connecting on a human level, not in a philosophical level or spiritual level or religious level. First, it is at a human level. Who are you? What do you do? What are you about? Let's break bread. And through that connection, because spirit is the ground of all being, that just begins to bubble up when we're not, focusing on it. Because oftentimes when we focus on those kinds of things, it gets, because of human nature, we start, mine's better than yours, all of the dualistic approach to life. But when you connect at a human level, there's only one human life. So we don't get caught up in the dualities and all this other stuff. We can focus on what matters. human life, gathering, celebrating, solving issues that may face us, and figure out how we together can make things happen. Because as the story goes, many hands make light work, and there's a lot of work to be done. So if we can all come together and bring some hands to the table, we're gonna have a easier time and a more enjoyable time as we solve some of these issues that we're faced with globally.
Yeah, Rev Z, and there's a way, as you mentioned, the human connection. Have you noticed when you're meeting somebody for the first time, it's the eyes that connect. It's the eyes lock in on each other.
Yep.
And even before any words are spoken, and there's already communication happening, and to me, it just goes straight to the heart.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. There are still some people that are wearing masks for their own personal reasons and personal health concerns. And I watched that happen yesterday, where the entire connection happened from the smile of the eyes. And then eventually, whoever it was like, okay, I'm going to pull my mat because we're going to take a selfie or something like that.
Right.
Is that behind, whose eyes are that? I know those eyes, but I can't put it together without the smile. And but it is that human connection. And, we're in a pretty big location here, folks. The convention center, McCormick Place, is huge. We're staying 4 or 5 blocks away, and it's a maze of bridges and connections through different conference halls to get to where we've got to be. And I've seen numerous people that are just lost. Where do I go? And how do I get to where I'm going? And when you're walking with a couple of people and everybody's smiling and chatting, and we have these wonderful conference bags that say Parliament of the World's Religions, people stop you and say, how do I get here?
Excuse me.
And there's that humanness that I don't know you, but I know I can trust you because we have this shared connection. We have this shared connection towards some intention of gathering together in like minds. And it does. It transcends the trappings of the robes and stoles, and everybody's wearing something different. And it's really fun to see people being people again here. So,
and for the most part, there's less of an agenda. Time. It's like, especially having to take selfies, you don't get very far sometimes. Oh, hey, it's like we're making the most of our moments. And then you have to remember, I did want to go go to a workshop, and but it's like it's more important to make that connection.
Yeah. And it sounds like to me, as I hear you explain that, it's more in a natural rhythm. Not that the workshops aren't important, or that they're meaningful, or that they, but what appears from I'm so bummed that I'm not there. I was in Chicago the week before, and now everybody's there and I'm gone. So that I'm a little bummed about that. But what it seems like is, the main agenda is we are all created in the likeness of the I am, right? And so that I am takes precedent no matter what you may, they say man plan and the source are God plans, but God is the best of planners. And so we may have these plans of what we want to do at the conference, but it seems like Spirit just steps in and say, wow, look at that person, or that energy, or that color, and you start going. And those meaning, even if you don't, I believe, even if you don't connect with them anymore, we know from a quantum physics point that once two things are correlated, they're always correlated, no matter where they are in the universe. So, the idea that there are two like minds that on who knows where that are pushing forth the same connectedness to source, the same spirit that is resolving things and celebrating things and creating things, makes this so meaningful And again, I'm sorry I'm not there. I want to cry.
Well, and I could see our friend Marie, who's over at the conference, about a half hour's walk away, or at least last time I saw her. Living in a natural and authentic rhythm is the essence of intentionality. Absolutely,
Yes.
Marie.
Yes.
And
Yes.
for me, it's kind of become there's a saying, I am that I am. Well, here at the Parliament, my saying is, I am where I am. I am where I am, and where I am is absolutely perfect. I may not understand why, I may not see that in the moment, but I am where I am, and it is kind of fun to surf the crowd, as it were, and just say, okay, I'm going to walk that way until I find somebody that smiles and wants to have a conversation, and then we do, and I might end up in another session. I might end up going for coffee. I might end up having an interview. But it's that spontaneity of knowing it's a real demonstration of our oneness.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Wow.
I have to tell you, Rev Z, it's so incredible how diverse oneness is.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So it's
I love that.
and because again, all of these are the hands of God that are doing all these different things to bring it all into one. We're all doing whatever we do, wherever we are in the world, for one purpose: for us to be ascended, for our ascension, to get the realization of our oneness, the I am presence that we all are, and that's and wherever we are, we're still one. I have to say a quick story. I did exact after lunch, after the langar, which is the Sikhs feeding us, the multitude. I'm just walking. I'm like, oh well, I'm not going to look at my schedule. Just let me walk around, and I walk into a session where there are some people from organization. I don't remember the name of it, but from around the country. And one woman gets up, a presenter, and says, "Well, I just want to tell you about. I heard a story about this tree in Charleston, South Carolina, and they were about bringing communities together through gardens, through gardening, and allowing people to be human again, you know, and not just depend on technology to make connections." And so they're doing it through gardening. And she wanted to share her connection with this huge tree in South Carolina that I think at one time was called the hanging tree, and now it's called the peace tree. And it's a huge tree, like hundreds and hundreds of years old. It's got these long branches that need to be upheld by wooden posts. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yep.
And at the end, I had to go up and show her that I was in that same spot 30 days ago. I showed her the picture.
Right.
And she says, "Oh my God, that's it. That's where I was." And she blessed the tree. And there's a picture of me blessing the tree as well.
Well, and you know, just to interrupt, I just came from Charleston, South Carolina myself, moments ago, if you will. So there is no accident in the universe that we bring this up. And next year, CSL will be having our annual convention in Charleston, South Carolina as well.
Exactly.
So right now that means we all got an assignment to do something in Charleston, South Carolina, because it's come up 3 times here just in a little bing, bing, bing. And so we have to meditate and do some visiting on what is there to see, do, or connect with in Charleston, South Carolina. So I'm excited about that whole thing right now.
Well, I think we can plant the seed, all puns intended, folks. We can plant the seed that Brother Rodney, Reverend Rodney, is going to lead a blessing of that tree again for us in Charleston next February, and we're all going to be sitting there under that tree together.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're lucky, folks, we might just broadcast it.
Yeah.
You never know.
Revs, it's the term that comes to mind for me is the 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
And at this conference, at this parliament, it seems it's less than 6 degrees. I mean, I really feel the oneness that yes, we are related. We look different. We have different languages. However, we're speaking the same language of the heart, the language of the spirit, which is we all get to understand, even if we don't understand the verbal language.
Right. Yep. Amen to that. Absolutely. Many souls in many forms of. All right, I'm going to say in many forms of drag. We're working on taking a New Thought contingent to a drag restaurant tomorrow for dinner.
Ooh.
That proves that to me that improves our inclusivity to some degree at least. But it's really beyond all the trappings, beyond all of it. We keep coming back down to that oneness. And I had a great conversation this afternoon with someone who is in the virtual community sphere, is in the world of virtual. And it's like, and we're sitting and we're chatting, and I'm thinking, man, if I had only known you 3 years ago, but then 2 minutes later in the conversation, he's going, man, if I had only known you 3 years ago. And we find it is in community, it is in these experiences that we can find that connection. But finding it is not enough. Right? That's the fun part about all of this. And that's part of what we're going to get to in our next segment, folks, is how do we now take this new excitement, this new recognition of our oneness, this new I want to say consciousness of our oneness, and make it real and take it out into the world. So that's part of what we're going to talk about in our next segment, folks. But we do need to take a quick break, let some of our sponsors know what's going on, let the three of us take a sip of water and recharge our vocal cords, as it were. So stay with us. We're going to be back with more of New Thought Today in just a minute after these messages.
You are a gift. That is the absolute truth. You are a gift, a blessing to the world, a way that the infinite love of God shines itself, shares itself, and expresses itself more fully in the world. You are a gift and a blessing. Please take that seriously. Take it as your honor. Take it as your opportunity to be a light that shines for others. Be that bright light of God's love that's the truth of who you are, and enjoy it, because you deserve it.
We're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Reverend Dr. Robert, my co-host, Reverend Elzia, and our special guest, Reverend Rodney Gittens, all the way from Brooklyn. So before we jump into how we take this out into the world, tell us a little bit more about One Love Center.
One Love Center for Spiritual Living. We started in 2012. And we're basically, we were meeting in person since the pandemic. We now meet online on Facebook Live. However, we are recognizing there's a change happening. that there's a shift happening, which is happening in many centers and churches around the world. And that kind of leads us into what we'll be talking about. However, One Love Center, we truly believe in that we're here to let love grow as us individually and collectively. There's a place where love grows. And that place is right where we are, right in our heart. And that's what we teach. We are centers for spiritual living. We teach religious science, which is science of mind and spirit, which is part of the New Thought community. And basically, we teach oneness. We teach that the power that is available to one is available to all. And that is the power of divine, the co-creative nature of who we are, which means we pay attention to the words we speak and how we use the words, that what we want for one, we want for all, because we are all one. So the good that I want for me,
it all comes back to the one.
That's right. That's all there is. 1 + 1 = 1. How many zeros you put on it, it all adds up to one. And we really teach loving kindness. We teach all of the aspects of life that make life worth living. That we are powerful beings beyond measure. And learn how to use that power for our greater good and the greater good of all. Again, because we are all one. So that's a common theme, and that's even a theme of all of these spiritual communities, and even the religions. They might have different deities, but we do recognize there is one power, one presence, one life, and that life is God's life. And it's my life now. It's the life of each and every one. We recognize the divinity in each person. And listen, even beyond persons, in life. I mean, it could be a rock, it could be any other animal, but we recognize the commonality and the spirituality of all of life. And there are some communities that honor spirituality more than others. The indigenous peoples really embrace the spirit in all of life, whether it's a tree or a four-legged animal, or whatever,
I like to say the furry creatures, the creepy crawly creatures, the winged creatures, all those creatures out there, all part of this one.
And so we teach to honor that, to honor ourselves, and in what way can we live a most prosperous, a healthy life, an abundant life of good. We don't want abundance of things that are not good, but abundance of good. I like to preface it, and how to enjoy this life. And what we teach is that we live in a creative universe, that there's creation always happening, that there's one creator that creates everything out of itself. And in this form, the physical form, because we are a metaphysical teaching, so we teach what exists beyond the physical, now how it comes into the physical. And we use a very simple example. And that's seed, soil, plant. Starts with a seed, which is the idea. And then what do you do with the seed? You put it into the soil, and you might even call it the soul. This is the place where the creative energies will reveal themselves as a plant. So you have a seed. Let's say it's an apple seed. You put it into the soil. What does it grow to be? An apple tree. Okay? Now, what does that apple tree do? It grows, and what does it do? It bears fruit and makes more seeds. All right? So it goes up to be where it came from, the seed, and creates more of that. And that's what we believe that the Creator does, and what we get to be. We get to grow up to be like the Creator. Yeah. As above, so below, and hey, we become it. We become it. That's our whole purpose, is to be it.
I know Z has one to bring in here, because when we start talking about nature and seed and soil, LZ is always all over it.
What you got, Jake? What you got?
Well, the thing I was going to say there, and all kinds of things were running through my mind, but one of the things about gardening is, in a garden, there are things that are so-called wanted and unwanted, right? So you have to weed the garden. But the vicarious part of that weed is that weed begins to, if we get it out before it takes over, it strengthens the plant to be more hardy, because it now has to share resources, if you will, with need, or there are bugs there, and there's eats them, right? And so I'm saying that to say, in terms of the various things that appear to be adversities, are in actuality things that make us stronger. And so when we look at life, and we look at life as the garden, no pun intended on that as it comes out, it is a place for us to learn, gain knowledge, and to understand what is life affirming and not so life affirming. And then we begin to learn to navigate, and we begin to learn to follow the signs, and be able to grow a paradise, which is our life, as we begin to navigate these different things that approach us in life.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you, sir. Okay. So here's our big question. And I want to preface this a little bit today, folks, because Reverend Rodney and I met many years ago, and as happens around this movement, you bump into each other at conferences and events and different things, and you find yourselves at the same meal table, and you get to know somebody, but only topically. I know whose church you're with, I know this and this about you, but we don't get to know each other. And recently, I was brought on to the Centers for Spiritual Living visioning team, of which Rodney has been a member for. How long have you been on that team now?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Time flies.
It does. So, and it's in that shared spiritual practice that we've gotten to know each other, I think, a little bit better. Really, from being in that sense of, okay, that's what came through for you in the visioning process when we're visioning on different departments, different initiatives within CSL. It's real enlightening to just kind of catch that feeling of, oh, wow, that's how you see it and how you're interpreting it and what's coming through you. So I think it's really, so I want to say and affirm that I love being a part of that team with you. It's really fun. And I think we're doing the good work of revealing a vision of where the future of New Thought is, and where we're being called as individuals and organizations to serve this vision of New Thought. And that's the big question we're asking everybody here this week at the Parliament is, how do you see New Thought's involvement with the Parliament serving to push us forward, to call us into our greatness, to promote or present New Thought into a more global perspective?
Well, thank you for asking. And, I see New Thought as a bridge, because we embrace all paths to God. Doesn't matter what religion you are. And that's where I get the philosophy of what New Thought is. New Thought is, hey, whatever religion you are, doesn't matter. New Thought says pretty much learn, get a better understanding of the spiritual nature of life. And we find a commonality in all the religions. And we recognize that all the religions all have a spiritual basis. It's all to bring us to the realization of the presence of the divine, the presence of God. And New Thought can be in everywhere. We can go anywhere. Like we go to a church or a temple or a mosque, or
Yes,
because we have not only that education, but New Thought embraces all these different religions. We take the spiritual truth from all the different religions, and so we have the ability to be a bridge to bring together not only New Thought with other religions, but other religions with each other.
Yes,
without getting caught up in the religiosity. Right. I think that's Dr. Rev Michael's term. But we can transcend all of that. We go around it, underneath it, through it, whatever, to hey, where are we united on this? Yeah, and I think New Thought is able to eliminate anything that could get in the way of that, just by focusing what is real, what is the truth, and forgetting the dogma. Right, Rev Z?
Yeah, and you know what? you know, I always come up with all these crazy metaphors, as Robert will tell you. But what came into mind when you were saying that science of mind acts as a bridge? I kind of look at it as a CrossFit training, right? So in CrossFitness, you take a little bit from this system, that system, and you come up with a CrossFitness program that allows you to train and do different muscle groups or aspects of the body. Well, when I look at religion, I look at religions and the precepts and the dogmas and the rituals as a system of how you cultivate your spirit to connect with the divine. And there are many different ways to connect with the divine, just like there are many ways to get in shape if you're looking at your physical body. And so if you are able to come up with a system, which is one of the ways that's highlighted, I think, is by Bruce Lee with his system of martial arts. He took from boxing and wrestling and traditional kung fu and came up with a system that allowed all the goodness to be present. And so that's what I look at religious science of mind as this bridge, as this cross fitness training that allows you to see that there's oneness in all of these different systems, and that each one has a specific highlight or a specific point of reference that they use depending on where you are and what you're trying to do. And so it looks like my compadres may have lost connection there. Haha, there you go.
This is live broadcasting at its finest, folks. You never know what weird things might end up in the waves of the internet. So share with it. Z, we didn't hear any of that, even though I think our guests did.
Yeah, and basically I was just saying that when Reverend Rodney was talking about science of mind being and religious science being a bridge, I kind of married it with looking at cross fitness training. Cross fitness training takes various aspects of different physical workouts, and they create a system that allows the best of each one of those systems to be learned and be able to use them appropriately. And so with religions, the same thing is there. Each religion has its own precepts and rituals and training that is a gateway to the divine. There's no one way that's a gateway. There are many gateways, and depending on the situation, one might serve you better than the other. And so science of mind allows us to do that, I believe. And I just love that, because I myself am a Islamic religious scientist. And as Reverend Rodney said, it does not preclude a religion. It is a foundational bridge that connects all of them together.
Yeah, and it's great because it creates an even level, even playing field. My sister, who actually had put up a quote, was that, well, are there any traditional African religions? And I think there might be one group that is a traditional religion here. Not to say that they're missing or that they have to be here. However, it would be great so that others can learn about more religions that are happening and honor and respect all religions. And I think that's something that the Parliament can do, is invite more of the world's religions, and which means we have to really seek them out, because some of them aren't trying to be found. We're like, hey, we're doing our thing. We have our path to God.
Yes.
It's something, however, that others can learn from. And as a matter of learning from one another. What's it saying, that there's nothing new under the sun? All these religions have something in common, and that's where we get to meet. That's where we get to learn from and educate ourselves about who we are individually and collectively on the whole planet, and not just our little sect of whatever religion that is, thinking that, well, that's mine, it's better than yours, and and therefore that can create conflict and can create wars and can create, all kinds of misconceived beliefs on what love is. Love is not just me taking care of mine.
Yeah. It sounds like that. You remind me of that poem by Rumi, and I forget the exact wording, but he says something to paraphrasing. There's a field beyond all the rituals and all of the ideologies that we have. I'll meet you in that field beyond all of that stuff, and now we can get together where we're not impeded, we're not shackled by some ritual or some dogma. We can come together, as we were saying in the very beginning, as human beings, trying to navigate this thing called life and figure out how do we promote the primacy of life, and everything else is kind of like secondary.
You said the word navigate, and that is a big word around here this week. How do I navigate because there is such a well of unique opportunities, unique conversations, places where people can get together, and we are moving beyond those older silos and that my way is the right way. Now, don't get me wrong, there is some of that happening here, and there are some people that are ours is the way and the only way, but the majority of folks that I'm meeting are suspending those belief systems, are suspending, because you're surrounded by the love, you're surrounded by the humanity of it. And I think events like this open us to a greater understanding or willingness to have a dialogue. If I just hung out around the New Thought booths all week, I'm going to get pretty bored, because I know all those people and we all have had these conversations more than a few times now. I've got to get out and go talk to the people in the booth that I don't know and the organizations that I don't know, and try really hard. I've got a great example of this coming up here, and try really hard to set aside our preconceived notions and biases. I stopped at a booth today because it said something about podcasts. Now, if you know this network, folks, and you've seen me anywhere in the last few years, you know that a podcast guest. Oh, all right. I want to know who are you, and you want to come on my show, or should I come on yours? And it wasn't until we had a really good conversation that I saw the telltale signs of their organization behind this booth and the group. And I'm not going to mention who it is because I might go on their show. And I'm going to do my best to suspend my judgment of what it is they're trying to do. Because if that community is investing in being here at the Parliament, then by the very nature that we're all here, there's a connection. Mm-hmm. Whether that connection truly promotes what I believe in the New Thought movement, we'll have to wait and see about that. Mm-hmm. And that'll take further conversations. And they might get into a conversation with me and say, yeah, thanks, we don't want that on their network. But that's okay. We're making the strides to set aside our own biases and open up to something that may inform who we are, and I think actually has to inform who we are.
Yeah. It's the exposure that I think makes the big difference. It's like if we're sitting there closed up, as you mentioned, we're not going to learn anything, first of all, about ourselves. And I can't think of any religion that closes itself off from, close ourselves off. There are rituals. And if we can share our rituals with others, then we get a better idea of what that religion is about. Now, the dogma, which is particular to each religion, that the people who are members of that religion, this is how they bind themselves to their culture and their understanding of God. That's fine. That's up to them. Yeah. Now, it becomes an issue if it's exclusive or is it inclusive. We're entering into this age of inclusivity, even though some people are trying to dampen that. I'm just saying it's a state of mind. Where,
if you lived in one of those states, you know.
But and I'm finding even today, there's a ritual that's going to be happening where people are dancing a circle of love and peace. Yeah. And that's just awesome. And that's all they're talking about. And I think that's in the basis of all religions. They're like, how am I at peace with myself? How can I exercise faith? How can I experience love? That's common. The commonality. And when we do that, that's that bridge. and the spiritual principles and using the spiritual laws of life, the metaphysical spiritual laws that have us paying attention to who we are and how we coexist with ourselves, bring our awareness of life and God and all of that into a higher level, to use it to connect with others, and not necessarily bring them up, but to connect with other levels where they're at.
Yes.
And it doesn't, and that's fine.
Yeah.
However, not to create more barriers,
right?
But open up the barriers.
Yes.
And rituals will do that. I mean, the indigenous people open up with their practice of opening up ceremonies and
right.
Peace. I don't know if they did the peace pipe to open up. I guess after the pandemic.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but a lot of drumming.
Yes,
right, and a lot of music and a lot of movement, and this parliament is filled with that. And I agree with you. It is the great music is the great language that everyone speaks.
Yeah.
And whether I understand the words you may be using, I can understand and feel the intention behind the music,
yeah.
And these other rituals as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a few of them. You catch a lot of them by being here throughout the week. So, hey, folks, it is at that time where we need to take another quick break and let you know a little bit more about what we're doing here on New Thought Media Network, and for us to grab another sip of water. But please don't go away. We've got our final thoughts coming up and our final segment in just another moment or two. We're going to wrap this up with our special guest, Reverend Rodney Gittens. But please don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors and donors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, and all of our individual donors and sponsors. Thank you for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. Please come be you. Yes, folks. Thank you so much for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. For all of our organizational sponsors and individual donors, your dollars go a long, long way to helping us move this philosophy forward, get this message out into the hearts and the minds of more and more people across this planet, and of course helps us to come and be a part of events such as this. So if it's in your heart, if you like the programming we provide, if you've heard something great this week about the Parliament, please consider a special one-time donation to defray the cost of being at this conference and continuing, as I said, to bring this message out into the world. You can do that over at our website, www.ntmedia.org. Click on the donate button and make it a monthly contribution. We'll include you in the next version of our thank you movie. All right. So back to our show. Number one, thank you so much. Again, I know there are a million things to do at this event. There's all kinds of other places I'm sure people wanted you to be and you could have been. And interest, and you took time out of your day to come trek across town and be with us here. It feels like it's across town, I'll tell you that, folks. But we want to thank you for coming over and being a part of the show. It's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Reverend Robert. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, I watch New Thought Network when I make the opportunity. And there's enough, more than enough shows, and you just do a wonderful job. And even this show helps make a difference, helps bridge people regardless of what religion you're in or no religion. To make that connection and see that all are welcome, to our own lives. We're all welcome in each other's lives. And thank you for being in the forefront.
Absolutely. I hope you'll come back again.
Yes. Thank you.
I will tell my producer to make sure we get your name on the list for another show sometime real soon. So, and folks, before we go, we always like to do our final thoughts here on New Thought Today. And knowing that Rodney and I have been sitting here palling around for a few hours now, we're going to kick this to Rev Z and let him get started with our final thoughts.
Well, great. And I've been thinking about what my final thought would be, and especially since I'm not there. And I would say for those that are there, find one person that you do not know or just met and make a commitment to keep in touch, to exchange emails, and once a month, just send a note and say, hi, what's going on? What are you doing? Because that begins to add fertilizer to that garden of life that we're all growing in, that allow us to stay connected and be a support for one another.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. Reverend Rodney, final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts are relatively similar, and that doesn't have to be just here at Parliament. Wherever you meet people, wherever, it's like, let's each one reach one, teach one, educate one, and really focus on our relatedness, on that we're connected, and we'll make it less than 6 degrees of separation. We'll really realize that it's not that far of a reach to see that we are one.
Yep.
We don't have to see who you're related to, and do you know this person, you know that person, you know that person. No, it's just, hey, you and I, we are one.
Deeply, we are one. Yes. And in all of this and in the sharing, I think the thing that's hitting me the most is, if we haven't already, folks, it's time to get outside our boxes. It is time to move beyond, well, these are my people and this is my tribe and this is who I hang out with, and start to engage with one person or many. Start to engage and share, not proselytizing, not pushing our belief system, but just sharing who we are as an authentic human being in the world, and what I know and what I've experienced so far this week. And we've got a long way to go yet this week. We still got another few days, I believe, at this point. So we're not even halfway through this thing. And the connection is palpable. The connection is real. So get outside the box. Get into conversations and dialogue with those you don't know, and even, dare I say, those you don't agree with. All right. Folks, we're going to get out of here for today and take that hike back over to the other side of town and visit some more with the Parliament of World Religions. This is New Thought Media Network. Please stay tuned throughout the week. We'll be bringing you some pop-up live broadcasts later in the week, and we've got some very special guests that we're working to get some exclusive interviews with. We'll tell you more about that as we go as well. But for now, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.